What's up, guys, on the YouTube side? Sorry if you guys can't hear me. I don't know why the space must be glitched in some sense. But, yep, just reiterating what I was saying. I'm going to be starting doing this crypto control show, whether people show up or not. It's not really the point. The point is to do a space and to start building a community of people that are trustworthy, that are talking about good projects. And so whether you're on the Twitter side, whether you're on the YouTube side, if you want to join the actual conversation, just join the Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. It's at Crypto Control 3. I don't know who got 1 and 2, but I got 3. And you can actually come up on stage and speak. And hey, what's up, Mitch Bromwell? Good to see you, man. And then if you just want to say something on the YouTube side, I can just read your comment as well. You don't have to come up on stage. Mitch Bromwell, thank you so much for the $2. It's always great to see you, man. I'm about to start grinding these 2 channels. I want to be a top YouTuber. I want to do it honestly, and I want to help people do well. I want to help people be smart, make right decisions, and help each other learn. There's so much information in the crypto space, and there's so much information in the YouTube side of things, and the psychology side of things. Hope you're doing well, Mitch Bromwell. Is there any projects, Mitch Bromwell, that you are looking at, that you've got your eye on, that maybe I don't know about? Because that's kind of what the sentiment is. That was one of the things we were talking about on a Twitter space earlier today, as we were talking about the Bitcoin and the market sentiment, and a lot of smart people up there that had a lot of good things to say. There's other countries where the inflation is hurting their currency so bad that they resort towards cryptocurrency. And I think that one of the things we were talking about is how the problem is going to keep presenting itself. And the problem is banks, financial institutions, governments, when they have power over that, they have control over that, they abuse that, they use that against the people, and it becomes not a safe place for our money because they have that power. And that problem is always going to be there, no matter what government you find. And I think it's always going to manifest itself, no matter what you do, with a solution being needed. That we need no intermediary, we need no third party. We just need the ability to interact with each other, fund with each other, and we really do believe that is the future. And it's like less than 1% of the world, and that's in Bitcoin, that's in cryptocurrency. I guess people said it was 3%, but I think in Bitcoin, I looked and it was 0.1% of the world's wealth is in Bitcoin. So, and the people outside of Bitcoin, they don't know. That's one of the things we're talking about, is the people outside of Bitcoin, they don't know what cryptocurrency is. They've only heard about it because of Dogecoin, and they've heard about it because of they've heard about Bitcoin, they've heard of cryptocurrency, but they don't really know what it is. And most people, they don't know how to download a wallet. If they do get a wallet, they end up getting some kind of centralized wallet that they don't actually have control of their funds. Mitch Bromwell says, busy year at the Rocket Ranch. Just glad you are still reaching out and hitting your goals. Never stop. Thanks, Mitch. You know what? And I'm used to it. I'm used to starting with nothing and having this feeling of this going into this unknown and feeling like it's rough and it's going to take a lot of work to get there. But as long as I put in the effort and keep working, then I'm sure it will come. What's up, Captain Iron Fist? How's it going, man? Definitely, Generation Crypto, I love you, man. You're definitely welcome to come up and chat if you'd like. I'm live on the YouTube side of things. I'm also live on Twitter. I'm live on my secondary channel, which used to be Crypto Dreams, and then I changed it to Data Control, and then I just recently changed it to the Crypto Control Show. So I'm just going to start doing these often, and hopefully they can get momentum, and I can use this space to have a positive impact on people. Like, that's the only goal, is have a positive impact, educate people, talk about things, learn about things, and hopefully, I think that tons of huge opportunities are coming our way because we're in crypto really early, and I think that with that is going to be like, you need to learn from very smart people, learn who you can't trust, learn who, like, I think there's a lot of people that, and it's just kind of this weird subject where if you start talking about content or crypto or DeFi, any of that stuff, if you say, well, maybe it's this, but I don't know, like, that's an honest approach, but you don't sound very sure. And it's not very, like, promising to people. So, as somebody who talks about crypto or whatever, you kind of want to come off as what you're talking about and you're confident in what you're talking about. But when it comes to like the markets and stuff, it's very hard to be super confident about that stuff. And sometimes you might just end up looking like a jackass because you said Bitcoin would never go below 20K and then it went down to 16K. There was a lot of people in that category, and vice versa. People said it was going to go way past that. Um, yeah. So don't feel any pressure to stay Generation Crypto. There's no one here in the Twitter side. That's totally okay. You know, but there's barely any people on the YouTube side of things. And it's a weird time of the day to do this, like night when everybody's like getting ready to go to bed. But my girlfriend's at a play, and I thought, why not jump on and start talking about, crypto and things. And if somebody wants to come back and rewatch the stream, they're definitely welcome to, and you can comment on these. And I just want to interact with people on the YouTube side of things and on the Twitter side of things. Okay, sorry, I'm just doing something real quick on the YouTube side of things. And something that I haven't really been talking about lately, a lot of us YouTubers, a lot of people were talking about SafeMoon. And it's kind of just like, well, we talked about all the bad stuff that happened. It got put out there, it got covered, it got debated. Right now, John is in the middle of like lawsuits with his mom and having to deal with these court cases. And, the team left again, Jonas and, all of them except for that one guy. I can't remember his name. I always forget that guy's name. But once again, they were having the roundtables and the team left again. And to me, it's just gotten to the point where it's like, if you don't see what SafeMoon is now, then there's kind of just no hope for you. And it's kind of just sad to watch, unfortunately, the people that are left. Like, the people that are left that believe in it, that are just hoping something happens, like no problem. You look at SafeMoon, you hope something might come out of it because you put too much in it or whatever. You might even think John took from the LP and all these bad things have happened, but you're still just hoping that something happens, maybe because so many people know about SafeMoon, or maybe John will spend money in the right way eventually that actually causes something to happen, right? I don't really have any I don't see a problem with that, and I don't think anybody should have a problem with that. But where it does get sad and it's just hard to watch, to be honest, is the people that continue to support it and like a endlessly like support John Karony like he is this miracle worker when he hasn't proven himself. There is not one single thing that we can name that John Karony has proven himself on. In fact, everything realistically looks really bad for John Karony. It looks like he's a bad leader. He's failed his promises. He's lied about everything he took from the LP. He won't address that. He's suing his mom. Like, just everything just looks really bad, and he's not addressing any of that in a meaningful way that shows that he actually cares about his investors. To watch the SafeMoon army, and this blows my freaking mind, to watch them attack anybody for referencing SafeMoon in some way and then talking about another project, like using SafeMoon's name to talk about another project, not attacking SafeMoon, but just using their name to talk about another project, or building a platform off of SafeMoon and then talking about another project. They get so mad about that because they say that you're taking advantage of the SafeMoon army for your selfish gain. Like, they just throw that thought in there. And it's funny because it's like, you watch those swap partners, it was like, yo, you know how much money they get off of you guys, off of you. The reason that John Karony gets that much money, I think the small amount is like 250K, right, for listing swap partners, and it goes up from there. You can have even more, is because of you, because of the investors, because of the SafeMoon army. Literally, John Karony has exploited the SafeMoon army more than anybody else, and yet he's worshipped. And the people who haven't exploited them, but who built a name off of them because they believed in it at some point and begin to talk about other projects, they attack those people as if they're scammers, as if they're evil. And so it's just like this small group of people left in SafeMoon that are unfortunately delusional and hateful. And, they take hypocrisy and they just take it to the max. And it's just like, there's not really, if they haven't learned by now, there's not really a point in having a conversation with them. It's not like, after all this information has come out from CoffeeZilla and we've had these discussions and we've been respectful and we've put out the wallets and the information's out there, at this point, if you're still like John Caroni to the moon and you're ignoring everything else and you're still attacking people for doing what John Caroni is doing to you, it's just this super deep level of delusion that it's just really hard to watch. And that's why people hate you. You know what I mean? Like, if you just believed in your project, yeah, you still have people like attack you and say, "No, dude, SafeMoon sucks. You're an idiot." You're still gonna have people call you an idiot for, hoping that something happens with SafeMoon. But it's the people that are hypocritical and attack other people and mock them, and at the same time mindlessly hype anything up about SafeMoon as the next big thing after years of SafeMoon demonstrating that it just doesn't care about its investors. So that's pretty sad to watch, because within the community there's some great people and there's some great projects that are coming out from people who were honest within the space. If you look at the YouTube side of things for SafeMoon, most of the YouTubers stopped talking about it because it wasn't because the views aren't there, because the views are there for SafeMoon. It's because they felt a moral obligation to not pump something that appears to be so seriously a scam. And hey, what's up, Daily Driven AMG? And the YouTube side of things says John is suing his mom. Yeah, he is suing his mom. Mitch Bromwell says, I still hold my SafeMoon. I had a 5-year plan and I'm sticking to it. That's totally fine. See, I don't care. And me and Mitch is a moderator for my channel, and I'm like one of the main FUD channels for SafeMoon, in the sense that I assume that all information is important to you, and I let you decide. I don't tell you what something is. I give you my opinion, and I let you know it's my opinion. But I just put out the information there, and you decide. If you don't think it's a big deal that John Caroni took from the liquidity or any of that stuff, or even in spite of that stuff, you still think something might happen for you to make an opportunity to have, make a profit, then that's totally fine. That's the entire point. And if everybody just approached it that way, there wouldn't be any of this nonsense, this egotistical, hateful nonsense. It's if we all just said, this is what I think, this is what I feel, but you decide for yourself. If everyone said that, then nobody would care or attack you. If your decision for yourself was, well, I think this is a scam and I think it's a terrible thing, or I think that they should answer to us for what we've done. A lot of people felt that the team owes an explanation because we've supported them so long, because we do care about SafeMoon. That's another thing that I don't think Maxis, the deep Maxis, really understood. It's we do care about SafeMoon. I do care about the community. I do care about it doing well. We had something. We really had something. It wasn't this terrible scam. It wasn't. It had so much potential, and it was all ruined. It was all thrown away. And to want answers for that, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not well, you stopped believing in it, so go away. It's no, this was a huge community we had. We made tons of friends, tons of connections through this, through all of us believing in this one token. And for us to want answers, there's nothing wrong with that, because this has severely affected the future of everybody who invested in it. It affects the future, and it affects your role in the community of promoting this. You know what I mean? And we didn't have a lot of the information about the wallets and John taking liquidity, John buying a house, John buying his cars, John suing his mom. We didn't have all that information until CoffeeZilla brought it out. But after that information came out, then there came this time where it's hey, if you continue to just mindlessly pump this thing and ignore all that information without seriously looking into it, and if you seriously look into it, it just looks like John took from the liquidity and used it on himself and at an excessive rate, at the same time while under delivering, over promising, and lying to his community about team members not leaving and them leaving. It's just worst case scenario, I feel like. Mitchell Abbeys in the YouTube side of things says, Volt is the revolution. Look into it. Crypto Control. Do your own research. You'll be shocked what you will see. Best project in my opinion, and the best dev in crypto. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Volt. Are they on Twitter? Can I look them up? What's their Twitter? Is it Volt Eno? 165,000 followers. So, the views were there for YouTube. YouTube had probably, in my experience, unless there's another one out there, if somebody wants to correct me either on the Twitter side of things, if you want to come up, you definitely raise your hand, or on YouTube side of things, then than any crypto I've ever found. Like, yeah, Bitcoin and Dogecoin, but YouTube channels were already established as the main channels for those topics, for Bitcoin and Dogecoin, and some of the bigger searched ones. And those guys are like really professional at what they do. They really know what they're talking about. But SafeMoon was like this window, this door to cryptocurrency, where it brought in tons of new investors, tons of people who don't know anything about crypto. And I was one of them. I was like, this feels crazy. This is annoying, trying to figure out Trust Wallet and get it to buy. And I have to KYC, and I have to send it to this address, but I have to change for gas. But I also have to, account for the 10% tax. So I have to increase the slippage, and I'm going to get these tokens. And now I'm getting reflections. And how does that work? And what's a smart contract? And just, it's a lot to take in. But tons of people have been brought into DeFi through SafeMoon. SafeMoon just caught on, and it got a bunch of new investors into crypto, which is a great thing. In my opinion, a lot of those people might not benefit off of SafeMoon, but by getting into crypto, into DeFi earlier, that might lead them to a project where they make a ton of money. Like for me, I made nothing on SafeMoon. I made $0 off SafeMoon. I was never paid for anything. I was never paid by anybody to FUD SafeMoon. But I made money on Evergrow. And if it wasn't for SafeMoon, that would not have led me to Evergrow. So it's just like a stepping stone into better things. And that's how I see it, is how we should all view it, is not being a maxi on one project, but learning, being smart, being real, and being able to detect BS, so that you can tell what's going on. Because that's unfortunately what we found within the crypto space, is that projects believe that if you say something negative about their project, that it's going to affect it and kill the project, kill the price. So therefore you should never say anything negative about it, and therefore any negative information is coming from somebody who wants to destroy the project. Otherwise, why would they be saying anything negative? And what that means is that if negative things actually start to happen, if the people start to steal the liquidity, if the people blow the liquidity, if the people lie to you, if the team quits, no matter what, with that perspective, you say, no, anything negative is going to take this project and make the price go down, and anything positive is going to make it go up. So we just need to focus on the positive and be positive. And they think that that's considered like being a positive person. They equate delusion with being a positive person, and being hateful to people who don't see your project positively as being a positive thing as well. It's very interesting how easy this is to see, from an outside perspective, when you just break it down, that thought that, if anybody says something negative about this project, then it's going to make the price go down. Therefore, you should never say anything negative. And it's like, well, what if something negative is happening? Should you not recognize that? And that might not determine that you would sell. What's your selling point? What's other people's selling points? What effect do you want to have on other people? Do you want to lie to other people about Thomas quitting, about Ryan quitting, about John taking from the liquidity pool because you want the price to go up and you hope it doesn't destroy the project? Well, if you just let people decide for themselves, you wouldn't do that, right? You would say, I don't know. You could say, I don't want to look at it because I just want to believe in this, or I have looked at it and it is true. But the point is that when the most important events are happening in our investments, can this happen with SafeMoon? I know it's going to happen with future projects, right? Whatever big project comes out that we all get in on, whatever it may be, I'm not sure. It could be a completely new project that we haven't heard of yet that comes out and we all get in on it. Maybe it's Vitreous, maybe it's High Seas Pirates. I don't know. But whatever project comes out that you get into, you can learn from your experiences with SafeMoon. And for me, I learned that people will not pay attention to, if you buy into that maxi mindset, you miss every single red flag, every huge signal that something bad is going to happen. And then you cause other people to miss it as well, because you lie to yourself about it and you lie to them about it. Well, we don't need the team. Or no, Thomas isn't quitting. If Thomas didn't say he's quitting, he's not quitting. See, Thomas said he's not effing quitting. John said he's not effing quitting. Thomas leaves a month later. Well, we didn't need him anyways. He was just an idiot blockchain developer. He couldn't even do this. He wasn't even that good. John was just cleaning house. And it was like, whoa, dude, like we had this signal so early on. And for everybody that was their selling point, and I promise you, a lot of people had selling point that when Thomas quit, they were done, because a lot of people believed in SafeMoon. They believed in Thomas more than believed in John. They got more excited for Thomas when he came into main chat, or when he came into the Papa chat, than they did for John Karony. And Hunter in the chat, sorry, says, I'm excited about Vitreous. I hope the three things succeed like you were saying in your last video. Yeah, thanks for watching that video, Hunter. I appreciate that. It was just me breaking down Vitreous, and, to me, it's just a huge opportunity if somebody wants to explain why. To me, like, the biggest issue they have to face is being considered a security, and I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But to me, it just sounds like extremely promising. It's when you look at Vitreous, and I'm not just trying to self-promote here. I am sponsored by them. I do make content for them. But it's not like I get sponsored by, I'm looking for content to sponsor me and say, hey, you have a decent project. If you want, I can cover it for you. And I just have to let people know that I'm sponsored. And you can kind of tell the difference when I'm talking about projects, if I'm really into it or not, right? I want to paint their vision realistically and say, hey, here's what happens if you don't succeed, and here's what happens if the moon potential, if something crazy happens and you take off. Vitreous, I actually, after sitting down and talking to the team for quite a while, like doing interviews and stuff, I'm like, okay, so you have an actual real company, a $1 billion company, with the CEO who's spending $200,000 on compliance a year, and they have 34 different services they have to use to stay within compliance that they have to pay for. And those services don't interact with each other, is what he's telling me. And he's saying that they believe that through using blockchain, it'll create scalability. And through connecting that to AI, an AI Vitreous chain that they're creating that pulls from all those resources, and you're able to put in documents that you need to know, and it'll spit out these different layers of checking those documents to let you know if they're in compliance. And as the compliance updates, it updates it for everybody, and it lets everybody know. So if Vitreous is able to do that, not only that, but they're patenting this technology as well. So if they get the patent, and if they're able to not get absolutely screwed by the SEC or being considered a security or whatever it may be, right, then they will have the market on lockdown, as Chad would say. And I'm like, okay, so you're investing in a real company that's not just a couple guys who just had an idea that what if we start, paying people to walk dogs, and what if we take a percentage of the people that charge to walk dogs and we put it in, like, it's not just some random guys doing that. It's a real company dealing with a serious issue that every company has to deal with, which is compliance. And it costs a lot of money, right? It's extremely costly, and it's extremely time consuming, and it's constantly being updated. It's a huge need. It's a huge area of growth and opportunity, and a huge market that hasn't been tapped in as far as connecting it to blockchain and AI technology. And they're doing it. And the people that they're paying to do it, they're not a couple guys that are brought onto the team and say, hey, can you do this for us? It's the people that work for this $1 billion company, Collaborative Wealth, underneath Chad. And they are professionals in their field. Like, it's what they went to school for. They've been doing it their whole lives, and they're laying out exactly how this needs to work for the AI technology to pull from all the different sources. They're going to launch at the end of the year. They're in their seed sale phase right now. And look, if you look at this and you think, no, I'm good. Whether it's the ETH, because it's going to cost 10 to 20 bucks in gas fees to get the seed sale. But they did remove the limit on the seed sale. You do the seed sale on ETH, you get the NFT, and then there's 2 more pre-sales after that. That will go at 3 cents and 4 cents. The seed sale is at 2 cents. So at launch, if you do the seed sale, you'll be at a 2x, depending on what the buy and sell pressure is at launch, right? If people are taking profits or not. But to me, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, so if this company actually does well, and if they're saving people money and time, and they're staying in with compliance, and they have the market dominance, that's going to be huge. This is going to be and this is like the safest, what I feel, because the team's doxed and they own a public company. The people that are being paid to do it aren't being paid from the funds from Vitreous. They're being paid as workers of the company Collaborative Wealth, and they're experts in their field. Like, when do you see this happen in crypto? How often does something like this happen? And especially in a market that is like extremely needed. It's not like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we created this game and we had this thing? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying everybody's doing that. So to me, Vitreous just kind of separates itself. Now, maybe the security problem will become a problem. Maybe it'll be considered security, and maybe they'll run into issues. Maybe they'll run out of funding, which I don't think can happen. I think they only need so much out of the pre-sales that they're putting forth to get Vitreous chain going, that, in order to get those rewards for Vitreous, you have to just stake your tokens. And I think they're looking at changing the wording on that, because the SEC is talking about saying staking as a security or whatever. And maybe they're going to change it. I don't know. But either way, you lock up your tokens. You can withdraw them if you want. There's a small fee or whatever. And that's something that could change as well. And 3% of all their revenue is going towards the rewards. So not everybody's going to be staking for the rewards, but the people who are getting 3% of all the revenue. And if they only got like 5% of the market, only the financial market within the U.S., not even outside of the U.S., it was like 2 billion in revenue a year, and I think it came out to 60 something million in rewards a year being given to only the people that are staking. And there's another interesting thing. If you're staking your tokens for Vitreous, if you say perhaps nobody does it, but you get all those rewards. It doesn't matter if only 1 to 10 to 20 to 100 people do it, they get all the rewards. So say Vitreous doesn't explode, but they get off the ground, they start making that money, the revenue starts coming in, and say they hit that marker, that 5%, and they're making $2 billion a year, and 60 something million is going towards the reward pool, which they also said that they were thinking about raising that to 6 to 7% at some point, so it could actually be double, and it would be 120 million, which came out to a certain, I forget how much it was, like 5 to 10 million a month or something in rewards for only the people that are staking. Then people are going to, if that reward is consistent, then it doesn't matter. I mean, and I'm not trying to just overblow this thing up. This is just why I personally see this has huge opportunity written all over it. Not guaranteed, but huge opportunity that people want to stake. They'll say, holy crap, those are insane rewards and the price is cheap. And the price is cheap, I can put a lot of tokens in there and take some of those rewards. And people are going to do that a lot. It's going to create insane buy pressure. If you're getting in at the earliest point in the project, or maybe wait till launch and hope that it dips and try to buy, right? Nothing wrong with that either. It just kind of depends on what kind of momentum gets built up. Because if insane momentum gets built up in the next 8 months with the Bitcoin halving coming and the markets, everything happening, and what they're seeking venture capitalists as well. And it's not like a couple guys. Once again, it's a CEO of a successful company, financial institution that is targeting something that every company needs and wants. Then, you might not have that chance for a dip, right? Like that's kind of what I hope for. I hope they're, as a seed sailor, a seed investor, and I didn't get an insane amount, that there is this opportunity to, for the price to not go down and to see like, hey, those that are getting in now, you are getting in at floor on an amazing project. So yeah, I mean, that'll create insane buy pressure, and the price, every project is dependent on the price, right? So when whales sell, they destroy a project, and whales always have the project by the balls, or the team if they take tokens from themselves, or they just take from the liquidity, and that's what destroys a project. If the whales can hold, the project can grow, and the more the price goes up, the more people are interested. The more people are interested, the more it grows and it spreads. FOMO spreads like wildfire if you let it. It's just most whales don't let it do that. They can only hold on to a certain point, especially since they started screwing each other over faster and faster and faster until they were like, whales are seeking the smallest gains they could get in and get out real fast. I think it really destroyed crypto. So so by getting in early, you can either be getting insane rewards by getting a large point of tokens for very cheap in Vitreous right now. Also, they're launching on their own blockchain, Vitreous Chain. Here's another thing that's insane. Vitreous, whenever a company say buys, because right now he's spending 200,000 with Collaborative Wealth on Vitreous to stay within compliance right now. And he said that the cheapest plan that they have is 45,000, right? So they offer all kinds of services, but the cheapest one, the basic one, is 45K. So if they're spending 200K or something a year and all this stuff, and they're offering 45K to cover all those 34 different services they need, and to make it much easier for their compliance officers to do all that work, then they're going to save them money, right? So they'd be getting the cheapest thing is for Vitreous is 45K a year, and I think they have to agree to do it for like a certain amount of time. Then the rewards start coming in and people want to buy, and you're just going to have these huge opportunities for to take profits. But the important part that I was trying to say is that the project's dependency is not on hoping that the whales don't destroy the price and everybody loses hope, because we're not going to be able to get the price up, because the price could go all the way down. The price of Vitreous could go all the way down, and if the company has built this Vitreous chain, this AI blockchain technology dealing with compliance, and is selling it, it's going to create this insane potential to buy a ton of tokens and get as much of that cut of those rewards as you can. And as people are doing that, it's either going to be that or the price is going to go up so you can sell. And if people are selling and the price goes down, more people are going to buy so that they get a bigger cut of these consistent rewards. So the project's future is dependent on consistent rewards coming from their utility, which is like a serious utility being made by professionals in a highly needed area, according to Chad. So it's the price. It won't be determined by the price. And to me, like, all of this is in place, and I think people have just been so affected by so many crap projects coming out, one after the other, promising the future, promising to change DeFi, promising to do all these things, that it becomes like, yeah, I've heard this before, I've seen this before. I mean, I feel that way. But when I look at this one, I'm like, oh, no. There's no way that you could compare the two. This one has the safety of, if this guy is a publicly known figure who works for Vitreous, who's completely doxed himself. He's on video. I have no idea in my mind of them rugging. I don't think that's going to happen. So that doesn't come very often with a lot of projects, you know. And then when it comes to like having a serious plan and a serious utility, they're already using their funds to pay the people salaries to work on, who are professionals, to work on developing the layout of what needs to happen, needs to be built on the blockchain or the blockchain itself in order to do the AI blockchain, in order to create the Vitreous chain. It's just everything you'd want in a project, other than maybe like fears of, you know, the SEC. So yeah, sorry I ranted long enough. I'll get back to your guys' comments. What up, bro? Jack of all trades. Good to see you, man. It's always good to just get in touch with you guys that I used to talk to all the time when we do SafeMoon videos and SafeMoon live streams. And now it's like, I don't talk about SafeMoon anymore, so I don't get to really see you guys anymore. And you guys aren't, a lot of the guys aren't super interested in these other projects. And I totally get that, you know what I mean? But it's just good to see you guys again, is all I'm saying. Mitch Brommel says, I would be willing to pay someone up front to buy Vitreous and transfer it to my wallet, then jump through the hoops to buy it with ETH. I might do that for you, but it's an NFT, and you can only hold one NFT per wallet, Mitch. So it's actually there's not really any hoops to jump through, Mitch. All you have to do is buy ETH and then send ETH to the address, right? And then it automatically, you connect your wallet to that wallet, and it's the same thing as buying on BNB. It's just there's like an extra, you need to have at least, I don't know, 10 to 20 bucks in gas, right? Which sucks. It might only be like $8 or something, but it's the same as buying a BNB project. It's just ETH. It's very easy, actually. Can you just hold Vitreous and wait to see if it moves? Yeah, 100%. So you get an NFT, and the NFT holds the value you put in it. If you want more, you can put more in your NFT. Like right now I have an NFT, I could go put 1,000 into it if I wanted, and it would just, that NFT would be worth 1,000. And then when the Vitreous chain launches, that value that I hold in my NFT will get airdropped to me in the Vitreous chain. And then you have an NFT that you could sell, I guess, if somebody just really loved the Vitreous NFTs. I don't see it having value unless Vitreous really took off. Then people might be like, oh, these are the original NFTs. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be cool too. But yeah, if anybody on the Twitter side of things, if you wanted to come up and say something, you're definitely welcome to. I was having some issues with the audio coming through, though. That was a little annoying. But yeah, if anybody on the Twitter side of things, if you wanted to come up and say something, you're definitely welcome to. I was having some issues with the audio coming through, though. That was a little annoying. Okay, here we go. I think now I've got the audio working on both YouTube and Twitter. I think Captain Iron Fist, if you guys don't know, is Generation Crypto. And I hope he's okay with me saying this. It's public, so I don't think he would care. But him and Darkmoon Tim got together, and they're doing their own project. And it's a really cool project. I could actually put it on the screen right now on the YouTube side of things. If I can remember the... actually, I could just find it through Twitter, sorry. And they did their own project, and the NFTs look really cool. And when I think when it comes to NFTs, because I've been messing with Midjourney and AI art, which I definitely recommend you to get into. Midjourney, or any other AI art thing, has taken my YouTube skills to the next level. If I need an image of a guy walking through a doorway, I type in slash imagine guy walking through doorway, rainy, dark, photo real or animated or whatever I want it to be with a jar of dirt on the ground. I can create any image that I want, and it'll do typically a very good job of making it. And it makes really good thumbnails. I should show you guys some of my. If you look at my thumbnails lately, you'll see that they just kind of have advanced a lot. So I think AI technology is going to be insane, and only going to really empower you to do better in the space. But yeah, here's some of their NFTs, and I actually forget exactly what it is, but I think Generation Crypto might be coming up on stage. Oh, he's actually here. So if you wanted to explain or really talk about anything that was on your mind, or potentially explain your project to anybody that might be listening on the YouTube side or on the Twitter side.
Yeah, thanks for having me up, man. It's
Yeah,
been
I
a while.
appreciate it. Yeah, it has been a while, which is weird, but I guess that just happens.
Yeah, I'm sure we're both pretty busy. I've been extremely busy. I'm sure you've been busy with everything you're doing as well.
Not really. I'm just
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you for mentioning our project. It's something we've been working on for, gosh, it's been, I think, end of April is when I started talking to Tim about this, and then I brought in our other founding member, Merck, who goes by Captain X here on Twitter. um, was back in May of last year. So it's been coming up on a year now that we've been working on this. But it's not just an NFT project or a token project. It's an entire ecosystem of multiple items working together. But essentially, at its core, it's a player-owned ecosystem. And so, what I mean by that is, to simplify this, is we've got a token that is called a piece of eight token. It's going to be on the Polygon chain, and it works with a system called FAST, which is a forever appreciating stable token. So, are you? You're probably pretty familiar with XUSD, I'm assuming, and some of your audience
yeah,
might be familiar with it as well, right?
they should be, but you could cover it if you quickly if you'd like, or I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
explain it.
it gives good context so people know what I'm talking about. So XUSD is a project that was started by Dapt, who is owned by the one and only, um, gosh, my brain's going dark today. Mark. So he was
DeFi
known
Mark,
DeFi
Safe
Mark. He was
Moon.
known by SafeMoon Mark, and changed his name to DeFi Mark, and just
Yeah.
goes by Mark. So he is was the CEO of Dapt and has since changed roles. But he's the original creator of XUSD. And so we are working with Dapt to do a version of XUSD that is going to be our own token. So it's the same team that made XUSD that would be building our token for us. It's going to have just some minor tweaks and changes to it, and being on a different chain. We chose Polygon because of the growth that's happening right now in Polygon. People may have seen on Twitter and stuff trending Purple Wave. Polygon's gaining a lot of notoriety and growth. Now it's a top 5 token, or coin rather. So it's doing really well. Anyways, so this forever appreciating stable token is a token that literally cannot go down in price. It works almost the exact same way as XUSD, but the difference here is it's a bit more aggressive. So instead of 0.25 tax, there's a 2% in and 2% out, and all of the funds that are generated from that go towards the appreciation of the price. So we as a dev team don't gain anything from it. It's completely decentralized. We don't have access to it in any way, shape, or form outside of being able to move the liquidity based upon a public vote by the holders of our NFT series. So completely decentralized. We don't earn any money from it. We just have that as the foundation to what we're trying to build. The NFTs you're talking about is our founding NFTs. It's our Genesis collection. There's 10,000 pirate NFTs. And those NFTs is what gives people the ability to vote in our ecosystem. So it's a governance NFT. It's got some pretty cool art, gives them access to some giveaways, it gives them access to beta to all of our products that we will be releasing, and everything else that'll be coming to our ecosystem in the future. So that NFT series will help fund a lot of what we're building in the future. It will also help people gain access to making decisions. And then we've got a bunch of stuff that's already in alpha on our Discord channel. So we've got a couple of products that we're getting ready to launch, and so people can go in and test those there. And we've got some free things that we're giving away in our Discord there as well. So that's kind of a 3,000-foot bird's eye view of what we're building. It's going to build into a point where people will be able to use those NFTs to play some games. So we've got what's called our Fleets game, where people will be able to go in and choose different types of missions that they can do. Where they'll send a ship and a captain NFT out, and it's basically just gamifying staking. So they'll send it out for a period of time, 30, 60, 90 days, and then they'll have some decision-making processes to do during that time, and they'll earn rewards in that forever appreciating stable token called Piece of Eight. So we've got a couple of games that we're developing that way, and other things that we'll be doing. We've got like a 40-page white paper people can go read on our website. People want to get down into the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to build there. But it's probably better if I take questions than go into all the details and bore everybody to death with it. So
Yeah, I think that it is a really like it's a cool project. Like to just being honest, I'm not just saying that because you're my friend or whatever, or even because it's connected to DeFi Mart because I love DeFi Mart. But that I feel like NFTs that do really well are ones that have that same image that's similar but recognizable, and everybody has a different one. You guys have nailed that out of the park with really cool pirates, and pirates is a really cool theme. So I guess it just kind of comes down to um, I think this is probably one of the hardest times to do a project right now. I think almost no projects are hitting their soft caps and their pre-sales, and people are just not paying attention to DeFi right now until the next bull market. But if you have this, project going and it goes into the bull market, then, it could, if there's something like this gets momentum, and I don't know exactly how the game works, but if people enjoy doing it and if there's a way to make money, like that's why people do it, right? Is they just want to make money, then it could be a really cool ecosystem of people. And it might just take working and working until you catch that break. And to me, this just has potential to like take off if you can get it to. And it seems like you guys are working from like a community-based thing, uh, slowly growing a community on this project.
yeah, that's the approach we wanted to take. It's kind of funny because what we're building is I know everyone says this, so I know it sounds cliche, but I'm going to explain why it's not so cliche. So everyone tries to say how their project is different or it's better or give some sort of a reason why people would want to invest or participate in a specific token or project. The one thing that does make us a little bit different than most other projects in the space that I've noticed, and what many other people may have seen in the space, is you always hear this idea of get in early. There's all this potential. This is going to 10, 100,000x. You're going to make all this money, and that's not been our focus since the beginning, and it's not something we tell anybody that is getting into our project. In fact, the way that the token is set up, it can't 10x, 100x, 1000x overnight. It's not built to be able to even do that. So yes, it won't go down in price, but it also is not going to 10, 100x overnight. It's going to be kind of a steady growth over long periods of time. It's the same thing with our NFT series. We're not telling anybody that, if you buy in early on this NFT, it's going to, be worth the same prices that we saw with Bored Ape Yacht Club or anything like that in the future. It would be amazing if one day it grew up to something like that, but that's not what we're trying to focus on. Just like you mentioned, we're trying to really focus on building a project that centers around the community, where all of the funds and all of the items that we create have some sort of a direct benefit for the community itself. So the way that we as a development team make money, because we have to make money somehow, right? And that's one of the key elements to anything for its survivability, is we take nothing from the ecosystem. All the money generated for the ecosystem stays in the ecosystem. So like I said before, there's no tokenomics that goes towards us. There's no tokenomics that goes towards any type of marketing, goes towards any type of dev fees, none of that. So how we generate our income as a development team comes from the products that we release, the direct products that people can purchase on their own will without having to use an ecosystem. An example of that would be the NFTs that we'll be launching. We'll be launching several series, and each one of those NFTs will have a very specific purpose that people will be able to use in our ecosystem. So they're not just fun art, but they actually serve a purpose in what they accomplish. And so I can go over the different ones that we have, but that first one is that Genesis collection that we'll be launching here, hopefully very soon. We're waiting on a couple of things in the back end with partnerships before we announce the official pre-sale date. But that will be the first product that we'll release. And then we'll be releasing several other products in the future as well. So the cool part about our ecosystem as well is it's not going to focus solely on needing to bring in new members in order to generate revenue to pay out rewards for things like our staking. We have a list of things, some of the things we can't talk about quite yet because they haven't been finalized, and some things we want to keep a little bit close to the chest here. But we've got different revenue sources that will come from outside the ecosystem that will be generating revenue to pay out staking rewards. So it's not just going to come from other investors coming in or participating.
I want to challenge you. Is this similar to the Rising Floor where you have the floor price and you also have the regular price?
As far as the NFTs?
No, just like as far as like the value, right? Because you it has XUSD as the uh or don't you have a token as well?
Yeah, yeah. So the token will be called Piece of Eight. It's going to work similar to XUSD, but
Mm,
obviously we're on a different blockchain and it's got slightly different tokenomics.
cool. Because like why did you say that the price couldn't 100x thousand? Like what if, you know, 10,000 people put in $1,000 each and you had like $10 million coming in? What would happen like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's if you go check out, if anyone wants to go check out resources on this on XUSD's website that goes over the math behind this, it's all exponential growth and how it builds over time. So yeah, if people started bringing in money, the rate at which it would grow would go up, but it's not going 100 or 1,000x similar to any other token would, because all the other tokens, it's all based upon the balance and the ratio in the liquidity pool, right? So if you've got a really small liquidity pool, there's a lot more volatility versus a very large liquidity pool, the volatility goes down substantially. However, just by altering that ratio of your source token or the token on the chain that you're on, so if you're on Binance, then it's going to be BNB. If you're on Polygon, it's going to be Matic. And then your token, that ratio, when it starts to get out of whack, that's when the price either goes up really high or it goes down really low. That's how liquidity pools work. Because this does not rely on a liquidity pool at all, it's just based on the ratio between the USDC, which will be the basis for our pairing, and then our token as they transfer through on that 2% buy in and sell out tax ratio. And then there's going to be an
Okay.
algorithm that changes over time to create that algorithm increasing over time. So it doesn't matter if a whale comes in and sells $1 million worth, the price goes up, not down because of that, but it's because the ratio always is going to favor uh, the USDC side of things, not the token. So when someone
So this
purchases,
is
go ahead, sorry.
oh yeah, you're good. So this is literally XUSD with a higher tax, if I'm
This is
understanding that.
literally XUSD with a higher tax on a different chain.
Okay, because like Daylight Token, you know what they did. I'm sure you heard about that a little
Yes.
bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Daylight Token had those two prices. So one price could 1,000x, and it would still keep feeding that floor. It could do whatever, and so you get the kind of the best of both worlds. But you also have this floor that the price can never go below. So really cool idea. That's what I thought you guys were doing, but you guys are just doing where basically it's as long after you get your 2% in, 2% out tax back from the price going up, your price of your bag can only go up from there based on the people that are buying and selling. And the last person to sell, the later you sell, it's the opposite of what you see in projects. It's actually the last person to sell gets the most money. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
similar to that idea.
it literally works out that if every person in the project sold, the last person would not only not only get their money back, but would get the most money back of everybody else.
Awesome. On the YouTube side of things, Mitch Bromwell says Crypto Control will listen to the rebroadcast. Head out to work on Relativity 3D rocket, 110 inches tall and 7.5 inches diameter. Uh, I imagine that's not inches. Good luck. Have fun. Launch soon. Bye for now. Good. Great to see you, Mitch. Thanks for stopping by again, man. Yeah, Generation Crypto. Yeah, I think it's really cool that you and Tim, who are like two people that have been like very trustworthy and very kind in this space. We all got to go on that Safe Moon ride together. And you guys are doing this project. Has there been like what has been your experience through doing all this? Going transitioning from being like a SafeMoon YouTuber to making your own project.
Oh man, it's been an experience for sure. We've definitely had a lot of growth, Tim and me and Merck, in this project. A lot of humility involved because we just had to learn so much. And it's funny how you see only one side of things from a content creator side, and there's so much work that goes in on the development side of things that you just don't see because you just don't know what you don't know, right? So you go in thinking this is how it's going to be, this is how we're going to do things, and then it goes into practice, and you realize, okay, well, I didn't even think about this, or I didn't even know about that other element, and there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to it. So it's definitely been a lot of work. It's been humbling to learn all of the different things that we've had to learn. Um, yeah, but it's been a great experience overall, I think, and we're pretty excited to get this project out there finally, and hopefully people will be able to see the benefits it provides. And ultimately, our goal is just to provide something for the community that they didn't realize they needed, but it is something that they'll want when they see that how it works and what it's doing.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I hope it does well. And I'll definitely, I'd be down to try the game out and stuff when it comes out. I still haven't done any like AI games. Uh, or not AI, I'm sorry, blockchain games. Um,
If you come
so
into our
it,
if you come into our Discord, we can get you in on some of the alpha.
okay, cool. Yeah. Um, I think I'm in there, but let me double check right now. But I'd be curious, and if you don't have a lot of time, that's totally fine. Like your take on the whole markets right now? Or do you kind of, because I went to a space and I was kind of like having to talk about, I don't know why they invited me, but I'm like, okay, I'll try and talk about these things about, where the sentiment in the market is right now with the banks, collapsing or whatever, and the Bitcoin halving coming soon, and we had a little bit of a pump, and then price came back down a little bit. What's your whole take on that? And how do you think that, like us going into this Bitcoin halving, do you think we're going to see what we saw with the first couple of halvings where it built up into the halving and then after the halving it took off, and that you think it's going to take off, past the to like 200K? A lot of people throw that number out.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on right now. Obviously, the bank situation has been completely insane. Um, what I think is ultimately going to happen in the long term, because people are having their short-term fears, are worried about their money right now, what's going on at the banks, and what this means for the larger picture of the economy and everything moving forward. One of the things I think is going to be for certain for a lot of people is a altering of their perspective of the banking system. A lot of people always saw the dollar as the top dog and our banking system as being something that's nigh unbreakable, because of FDIC insurance and because of how well it's done over the last 100 years. A lot of people say, yeah, there's issues with inflation, there's other corruption related issues, but ultimately the dollar is solid. And now we're seeing our banking system as something as not as solid as we initially had anticipated or thought it was, right? Because we've seen the collapse of these major banks and institutions. Now there's worry about a lot of other institutions failing and now all having to get bailed out and all these other issues that are going on. And people are starting to realize that the centralized federal banking system is not as good as they may have grown up to believe or have learned to interact with. And so people are looking for alternative systems, something that's better, something that's going to work in their favor and not screw them over. How many small businesses got screwed over by the Silicon Valley Bank situation where, on payday, they could not pay their employees because this bank decided to run things very poorly and they had no access to funds that they entrusted to this bank and this institution. So there's a lot of things going on that way that's causing a lot of, in my opinion, distrust in the banking system and the financial systems that we currently use now in fiat. So I think that's going to shake a lot of people, and that's going to make them look for alternatives. And that's, I think, partially why we've seen such a rise in Bitcoin's prices recently, as people have started to rather trust Bitcoin than trust some of these major banks and what's going on right now. And as we go into the halving again next year in 2024, I think that it's going to repeat the same cycle it's repeated since the history of Bitcoin's beginnings, where we see, just like you mentioned, this rise in price. Um, I would I would predict, of course, not financial advice, that that's probably going to be the start of our next bull run. And when that happens, after the wake of the entire economic issues we've had in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if there is growth just in the space in general. And what I'm hoping for is more of a maturity in the space. The bull cycle before this, we saw a rise in just the general idea of DeFi, and then this last one we saw a rise in NFTs. Um, Obviously, there was a lot of negative aspects that came from that, and it was not perceived or looked at as maturely as the technology can become. And so I'm hoping that in this next cycle, we start to see some maturity in the space, and we'll start to see some people who are looking at this not just as a way to earn more dollars, but as a permanent solution to a lot of the issues that we're seeing in our fiat systems.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we're talking about. It seems like what we're experiencing right now, and I'm not an expert, so I'm not trying to just like talk like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but the ideas are starting to come together, which is like this is why Satoshi made Bitcoin, is because like the 2008 banking crisis, and it feels like what we might be potentially experiencing now. And that's one of the things I was saying at the beginning of the stream, that to me, like that's a problem that as it manifests itself, the solution is Bitcoin. Like that's the solution. And as it manifests itself around the world, there was a woman from like Lithuania or something, and she was saying that their dollar or whatever, their currency is so inflated that they literally have to use cryptocurrency. So people turn to cryptocurrency. So when you add the bull run with the small percentage of people that are into Bitcoin and crypto right now, combined with major banks, collapsing or whatever's going on with them, combined with inflation and all these other things, it just seems like with it, like, yeah, we are going to see a massive run up again to, I don't know, 200K or something. And that with that is going to be all kinds of new people entering into the space, new projects entering into space, new opportunities. And that's our opportunity to learn from what happened in the past. Don't maxi mindset and try to make profits off of good projects and try to, you know, diversify into Bitcoin and Ethereum and BNB because those are probably going to go up with it as well. Like those are like the safer plays, as far as what I'm learning is if you can get a decent bag built up and you want to put it somewhere safe, it's probably going to be in BNB or Bitcoin. And then you can say, well, if Bitcoin goes to 100K, that'll be about a 4x from where we're at right now. So you put 10K in, that's 40 grand. And, you put that out and you pay a certain percentage in taxes. So yeah, I just think there's this huge opportunity coming unless there's just some major wild card that we don't see. And that was one of the things I discussed with people who are like Bitcoin maxis is like Bitcoin has to be an enemy of the current financial banking systems because they need control, and the less control they have, they want to control all of our money. And I know that they have like CBDC and what they're working on, but to me it seems like they have to have a plan to try to take Bitcoin out. And a huge problem with that, and I heard BitBoy talking about this, but it's like if they control the banks and the way for you to get your money, what other method is there for you to get their money if you have to go through a centralized, platform to get your money, other than just mining Bitcoin? You know what I mean? Do, do,
100%. No, yeah,
do you know that? Okay.
yeah. So
That'd be
I
amazing
gotta
because then you wouldn't have to pay taxes.
I've got a mind exercise I'd like to do with you here. Just because I know that a lot of times when we're talking about money, we're building upon shared understandings of what those systems are, and I think sometimes it's important to revisit what those actually are at the fundamental level, and then revisit and relook at our perspective. So this is what I
Yeah.
mean by this. What is the actual utility of the U.S. dollar, or really any other fiat currency? I know this is like kind of a redundant question, but I think it's important that we answer these things at their fundamental level.
Well, I think that it's to create something that we can all agree has a specific value by which we can use to determine the value of everything else, products and goods and services.
100%, yeah. So, like at its fundamental core, the U.S. dollar, and really you can insert any other fiat currency, whether it's the euro or it's the Brazilian real or the Mexican peso or whatever, doesn't matter. All of those currencies are a representation of trade value. That's all they are. They represent the value of whatever it is that you're trading for. So, if I'm buying an iPhone from Apple, I'm saying that Apple's iPhone has X amount value for me in this trade. So I'm giving trade value for your item. If I'm going to get a service from somebody, I'm giving you this much trade value for your service. So the dollar is just representative. It just represents trade. The reason that it represents trade is because back in the day, before currency was a thing, we would literally trade items. So I'd say, hey, you know what? I've got this pen. You've got, I don't know, that piece of chicken. I'll trade you my pen for a piece of chicken, or I'll trade you my chicken for your sheep, or whatever it is that you have, my blankets for your wheat. Doesn't matter. But we would trade items. But that's very ineffective because I might not want what you have, or you may not want what I have, but one of us wants what the other person has, the other person has excess and is willing to give it, but we need to have something that represents value so that we can have a fair trade. And that's what currency represents at its core, right? So the currency has a utility, and that utility is just trade value. Bitcoin, gold, all these other things have the same exact utility. Bitcoin's purpose, and ironically as this is, because it's considered a meme, Dogecoin even has the exact same purpose. All of those cryptocurrencies, there's a few others that fit that bill as well, are completely designed to just represent trade value. The question then becomes, who is better at representing trade value? We moved away from gold in favor of the US dollar for several reasons. One of those was it's kind of hard to carry around big pieces of gold, especially once you start talking about large sums of money, right? No one wants to lug a giant cart full of gold around for multiple reasons. The liability of moving around that much heavy metal, and the fact that it's just cumbersome and it's hard to deal with. So we worked over to paper that represented that value, and it was easier to move around and it was easier to deal in. So we moved over to a paper currency system. that was representing the gold because that's what people thought of in the past. Now we have other opportunities like the digital dollar, which is basically what we've replaced cash with. I mean, almost nobody uses cash under maybe some few circumstances, or if you're an older person, but your average person nowadays is using plastic or digital currency to represent their dollars. So we've gone from hard metals to pieces of paper over to plastic and digital versions of our money, all to represent the exact same thing, just a value of exchange. So Bitcoin, Dogecoin, any other cryptocurrency offers a utility that is superior to just a digitized version of the dollar because of what we're seeing going on right now in the banking system. Because dollars can be duplicated, they're easily created fictitiously, and it's hard to represent value when that value is not based on any solid foundation like Bitcoin is with its mining mechanisms, like Dogecoin is with its mining mechanisms, like any other major cryptocurrency when it's mining mechanisms or however it's created in the algorithm. So not only that, it's immutable. It's not, you cannot duplicate a particular Bitcoin or Dogecoin. It's something that you can verify is real, which a lot of times with US dollars, I mean, you go into a bank, they have to go through this entire system of looking under lights and stuff to verify the money you've given them is even real. So it has all of these advantages that supersede the advantages that we have now in our current ecosystem model, but we need to make it more accessible to your average everyday person, which is the biggest barrier of entry for most people, which is something we're slowly overcoming with things like Strike and other things that are developing over time to make things simpler and easier to use for people that is the average person. So that's very long-winded, but what I'm trying to get at here is that there's been an evolution of our representation of currency over time, and that evolution has led us to the point where Bitcoin is becoming the best solution available, or any other cryptocurrency out there that wants to compete with Bitcoin are the better solutions out there for something like the US dollar or any other fiat currency. We just need to make it more accessible and easier to use for other people and get other people to recognize that advantage that it provides over the disastrous issues we're having now in the federal systems with the banking system. So with that understanding, I think people, when they look at cryptocurrency, shouldn't look at it as a way to earn more dollars, but should rather look at it as a way as what utility or purpose does it serve? And in the realm of that utility, does it outcompete or outperform others in that sector? Not all cryptocurrencies, despite their name, are developed to be a utility that replaces fiat currencies. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there that are there to actually replace other forms of systems. A good example of this is VeChain. VeChain is not trying to be a direct competitor with Bitcoin or Dogecoin or the US dollar. They're not there as a utility, as a representation of money. They're there to compete against the current systems when it comes to the supply chain systems. They want to have an immutable way people can track supplies on a supply chain and then keep track of those things and validify that those things are the true things that they are. So when you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, how do you know that Louis Vuitton bag is a real bag without having to go and get it certified by somebody? How do you know your Pokemon card is real? How do you know those other things? VeChain is trying to solve that on the supply chain side of things. NFTs are another utility that tries to verify one particular items in a digitized version of whatever the item is. So there's other cryptocurrencies out there that aren't trying to compete in that particular utility, but are trying to solve problems in other aspects of our lives utilizing the same blockchain technology. So what I advise almost anybody out there is, when you're looking at a cryptocurrency or an NFT or a project or whatever it is, what problem is that system, is that crypto, is that thing trying to solve? And does it compete against others in that space in any form or way? If you can't find a good solid answer to a problem that it solves that's a real actual issue, or utility that solves outside of just potentially making you money, then it's probably not going to be a good project to get involved in.
I would, I agree, but I would also say that you might have to consider it. Will other people buy this? Even if it doesn't have those things, because like SafeMoon didn't solve anything, and it just was an idea that caught on like wildfire, and there was insane opportunities to make profits off of buying SafeMoon. So I agree with you as far as like looking for legitimate projects to invest in, that's a good way to go about it. But I think there's also just kind of trying to anticipate what like, Shiba Inu or Doge, those might do something, just an idea that might catch on like wildfire that could be a great investment as well. I don't know what that structure is, but you know what I mean.
Oh, 100%. Well, I'm going to actually challenge you on the SafeMoon thing here for a second, because I think it's an interesting thought exercise to help people understand what actually happened there. So what caused SafeMoon to go crazy? You mentioned that there was these things that were supposed to happen. That was why people were getting into SafeMoon. There was anticipation and speculation that SafeMoon is going to accomplish specific things. Those specific things, I mean, not to go through, down history road here, but there was speculation that it was going to replace certain economies in other countries like the Gambia. There was speculation it was going to invent different utilities that would serve a real world purpose that was going to generate revenue. So it was, yes, of course, everyone got in because they wanted to make money. That's the point of why people are getting into those kinds of things. But the reason it was going to make money is because it solved the problem. So if you're that's what I'm trying to say is you got a big picture and really get down to the foundation first and then look up after the fact. So the reason that people are going to speculate and want to get into something is if that something is going to have value in the future. Is it going to solve a problem in the future? Is it going to do something in the future that's going to have legitimate value outside of just speculation in and of itself? And so that's why SafeMoon had so much success, is because there was all of this hype and speculation around these fundamental ideas that were allegedly going to solve major problems. And because those didn't come to fruition, that is why you saw the massive pullback. That is why you saw the cascading issues and failures that happened after the fact. Had SafeMoon been able to accomplish all of the things they said in relative time frames to the times they said it, I guarantee you the price structure and the value that it would be at today would be astronomically different than it is now. So the reason that it didn't succeed wasn't because just the community failed or gave up on it, or because X person or Y person left the project, or because X date was missed, but because the
Hmm.
fundamental foundation of what they were supposed to accomplish was never achieved.
So I would agree with you in some sense, but I would push back as well in another, which is that as far as I understanding is the timeline of those promises that were made, I think SafeMoon got a lot of traction before it had any major promises of solving anything. And I think that what really sold them was the idea that you're going safely to the moon because, and you can correct me on it, and we both know all this stuff, we've covered it a billion times. You're going safely to the moon because the liquidity can't be touched and because you're getting reflections. So the idea of earning while holding and of being early in on this project that's going to go to the moon, and because the liquidity is safe, they can't rug it. I think that the beginning ideas of SafeMoon, that there wasn't any huge utility planned. And then and like even Thomas and them talked about it, they're like, wait, what is John talking about as Operation Phoenix? Because he just randomly started talking about that. And they did talk about a blockchain, and they pulled together money or for an exchange. But for me, what sold SafeMoon and made it so big at the start was just an idea. It wasn't actually the idea of it solving anything, but just the idea of being rich based off of safety and passive income, through holding. And then they had enough momentum that by the time that they got all the celebrities to start telling their people about it, when the celebrities were telling their audiences about it, they weren't explaining anything on like why SafeMoon was going to go to the moon. They just said, buy SafeMoon or check out SafeMoon. SafeMoon's going to the moon. It's going to be huge. Don't miss this. And it wasn't until later that a lot of those promises started to happen. And that would be interesting to go back and find exactly when they started making what promises they made to see where the pump happened. And but I do feel that most of the promises, the big promises, hadn't occurred like maybe right after the huge price action up. But I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that's interesting that I actually kind of reminded me of a few things, but I think that point still stands, because what you mentioned was the reason people still first got on the beginning was the idea that this liquidity could not be touched, so therefore there was safety, and there was this idea of reflections, which wasn't necessarily a new idea, but it was the first time it was brought to the attention of multiple people on a major scale. And so those two are technically utilities, right? This idea that, hey, you know what, there's a lot of non-safety in the space. There was a lot of rug pulling, other issues going on. So the idea of people feeling safe that they can put their money here, and then the idea that, hey, there's also this unique utility or concept where this money is given back to me based upon other people buying, and there's this new mechanism that hasn't been tried out in the space before. That novel idea brought people in, and they thought, I can make more money through this new function that was developed, and I don't have to worry about the utility being drained. So this is something that I can get behind and that I want to bring other people into, so that does go up, that I then am able to earn money from that utility. So in a somewhat loose way, I could say that is somewhat of a utility, but there was at least something there that brought people's attention, that made them want to get into it. What I'm trying to get to is, if you just have a token that you just name Y token, you just say, hey, you know what, this serves no purpose or utility, in the long run, you're going to have a hard time maintaining value. Now, in the short run, you could get a handful of people to get hyped about it, and you can get people to FOMO into it, and the price can go up. But that initial J curve is going to eventually happen, and it's going to drop back down to the floor, because eventually people are going to want to take out their profits, and then there's a bunch of backholders after the fact. So what I'm mostly talking about isn't that there's not tokens or projects out there that can't go up or can't see hype for any given short period of time. What I'm talking about is projects that will be around 5, 10, 15 years from now, and that are going to be something that you can put your money in and not have to, watch it just fall apart and sink from, down to decimal points of value from what you saw when you initially invested into it. So that's mostly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real utility, real value that will come in the long term, not just some short term project. Because if people want to play the penny stock game in crypto and play the DeFi game where they're just getting into projects that have serve really no purpose, and they're just kind of gambling at that point, there's money that can be made there, but there's also way more people that are hurt by that than people that make out from that. And so that was actually why, not to shill, but that's why we started our project, was because we wanted to build something that was for those types of people that love DeFi, but is built in a way that's not going to leave all these people hurt after the fact when the initial drop happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, Seer the Six, how's it going, man? I see all your comments. If you wanted to come up on stage on the Twitter stage, it's at Crypto Control 3, and talk about what it is you're talking about as far as XRP. I'd be interested to hear what it is you have to say. Otherwise, I can read your comments in a minute. Yeah, I think we're onto something, and a lot of times, Generation, I appreciate talking to you because you're actually a very smart guy. That breaking down the very most simple ideas, I think helps you understand the complex vision of what things can be, right? And all we're really talking about is a very simple thing. And it's like people invest, I think, in an idea. And like, what would you say about Dogecoin? Wasn't Dogecoin just this idea of mocking everything? Like, it's a dog, it's a Doge. And I know that people are trying, like, I think they're trying to do some type of utility, but I feel like in the beginning, it was just the idea of mocking the whole system, like, right? And that's what I think when we're looking at, what we should invest in the future, especially if mass adoption is happening and everything appears to point towards insane mass adoption, like being seriously early on crypto, in my opinion, even still, is how to look at ideas and whether or not people are going to buy into those ideas or not. And like, obviously, I think, yeah, you want to look out for the powerhouse, serious companies that are aiming to actually solve real issues with real professional teams or with a real vision, with a real utility. So those things, I think there's a way to approach that. But I also think that it's approaching an idea, and there's probably a lot of components to it, because you also have to say, well, yes, this idea, people could buy into it, but also, do they have access to the liquidity? Are they docked? All those normal questions that we ask when we look at a project. But I do think that it would be good to break down the structure of why it is that people buy into ideas, and like each project, whether it be a meme project or whatever that's taken off, or been like, the Bored Apes or something like that. What was the idea that people bought into, and why did they? I think that would be such a great thing to break down and understand, so that you could form a perspective to look out for, like, what does this project have the aspects of people buying into it. So you could probably even look at a project that doesn't have serious utility or any of that stuff, but you say this one really fits the description of everything that people would buy into. And you can invest in it based on that, and then it has memeability or something like that. Even though I think we're going through all these different phases of the people that are in this space being exposed to those ideas over and over again, and everybody trying to exploit that, and all the bad actors. So I think we're, on the BSC side of things, it was reflections and rewards and passive income, and everybody's been exposed to that to the point where they're like, yeah, I've heard that before. And the same thing with, NFTs. I haven't been too much in the NFT world, but I think people are just kind of like, yeah, we get the idea of that. So an idea it's, I guess there's this potential for people to be less likely to invest in an idea if they've been overexposed to that said idea. A new idea might have more weight to it, and that might be part of what we're looking at when we're approaching what is the, excuse me, what is the idea that people are investing in. Is this something new that also has all these components that cause people to believe in it? And I think that right there might really help you buy the right projects in the next bull run.
It's super fascinating. There's definitely a case study to be had there on tracking which projects did well and why they did well. And I'm sure that there may not be like a perfect trend, but I'm sure you'll start to see similarities in each of those. That's actually funny that you mentioned all of this. I want to touch on a few things. You started talking about Dogecoin, and man, is that a fascinating story. Um, Dogecoin, yeah, it was actually made in 2 hours. It's a Bitcoin copy. It's literally just a fork of Bitcoin that was made by the founder in about 2 hours, and it was supposed to just be a joke, just him trying to show, hey, look, you can easily make crypto. Like, this is all a joke. I'm going to call it Dogecoin because back then, when it was made, I think 2014. Somebody could correct me on the year, I believe, but I think it was made in 2014. Um, he made it simply as a joke to just say like, "Hey, Doge," because back then the Doge meme was what was popular back then, so that's why he named it Dogecoin. Because it was supposed to just be this meme coin, and it initially didn't have any real value. It didn't have value for a very long time, to the point where he and the original team like left because it just didn't have value. He ended up selling, most of his shares to buy like a used Honda Civic or whatever it
Yeah.
was. The irony of it was because it minted so many tokens at so much and so quickly, and because of its relatively low gas fees. Later on, Elon Musk, of course, came by. There's, of course, TikTok tried to pump it a few times, and other things happened over the years that had it gave it a few little pumps. But Elon Musk kind of realized a few things about it. One was because of its rather high inflationary value, but not outrageous when you look at it from a percentage perspective, the price is never going to get astronomically high. So you might see people say Dogecoin's going to hit $1,000 one day. That's just not possible. Um, but it can hold a relatively low value, and there's going to be a constant inflation rate on it. So it could actually function fairly well as a trade currency because of that. Whereas Bitcoin, because of its much slower blockchain and it's a little bit higher gas fees, it's better served as a form of uh, maintenance of value, like a savings account or gold. And so he kind of perceived it as this transactional currency, and that's kind of why he got behind it. And of course, the meme side of it, he loves that stuff. So he started to push it. And that's why we started seeing kind of the craze of Dogecoin after that, and of course the memeability. But the reason I bring this up and talk about this is and tying this all together. You mentioned there's kind of a why do people do certain things and why do they get involved? And the one thing that I've learned from the developer side of this, and I've learned somewhat as well from the content creator side of this, is as much as people want to say they made this decision because they felt it was the right one, logically, a lot of people are emotional decision makers. They make decisions based upon where they see themselves and how they feel about a particular thing at that time, or how that thing could make them feel in the future. And so what I mean by that is when I started my project and we started talking about it initially, we talked about all of the math and the science and the reasons why we thought our project was cool. There's this 45 page white paper that goes through all these details, and we would sit in space for 3 hours and talk about all this, the math behind this and why that math makes sense and why it's so cool. And to be quite honest, no one cared. And no one cared because it was just the logic side of it. No one's invested in the math in that puts people to sleep. So we had to come back to the drawing table, the development team, and say, how can we help people get to know about this in a way that's going to excite them? And instead of focusing on the math and stuff, we started focusing more on the benefits and the experience people would have participating in our project. And that immediately had results. People started wanting to get involved. We started growing a community in Discord and other places. And so we're talking about the same thing. We're still telling the truth. There's nothing really different. It's just the approach that we took to get it in front of people changed from, hey, let's appeal to you logically versus, hey, let's appeal to you guys more on what your experience is going to be in this space. And that resonates with people so much more than just explaining why the math makes sense behind it. And so one of the things I've learned is people are emotional. They want to invest emotionally. They want to be invested in that way. And they want things that are going to make them feel included in a community. They want things that are going to make them feel like they've made a right decision, like it's going to give them some sort of benefit in their life rather than it just makes sense logically. And that's the same reason why people buy cars. It's the same people why people buy anything really, is because there's an emotional attachment that they gain to that versus something else. There's always going to be a better car that they could have purchased. It may have been, had better gas mileage, or it could have been at a lower price or whatever, but they chose that one for a specific reason, and a lot of times it was emotional. And so, yeah, it's funny to see that, and um, that's in my opinion part of the reason we see a lot of projects or tokens or NFTs do really well, is because of the hype and buildup that we saw from the emotional draw and pull that it created.
Yeah, and I think that the more successful projects are, the more successful projects can be. If rugs are happening everywhere and people are getting screwed and people are taking too many tokens or giving too many tokens, team tokens away or taking from the LP, everybody loses faith and people are a lot less willing to invest. But if this project blows up, oh, this new one came out. Oh man, I missed that one. I don't want to miss the next one. This one is similar to that one. What if it does it again? What if I miss out? So I think that a bull run is definitely going to create this opportunity for a lot of those projects, whether it be because like that's another thing is like there probably are a lot of good projects now. I know a lot of people talk about they believe XRP has this potential to like overtake Bitcoin or these other huge projects. I think if you can find real legitimate projects that are doing like you said, actually solving a need in the space, and like right now everybody's making a wallet and you're just going to be overrun by wallets, and maybe there's some of those people making wallets that are going to take over because what they're offering just is better and easier for everybody else, whether it be off ramping or getting all the tokens you want, or it's just easier to use. It's not like it's not super complex, um, and or safer. So yeah, I think that's definitely a great conversation to have when it comes to what we're about to experience, because that's how I feel. I'm like, well, something big's probably coming, and you just don't want to miss the opportunities to make life changing money, right? That's what will be there. That's why I'm in this. I mean, it's cool to be like, oh, this is affecting the future of the world, and eventually it's probably going to be super integrated. Like blockchain technology will be like internet. It'll just be like a thing that everybody uses that's used to that, you're have access to and all that stuff. Um, I've even like tried to think ahead of like, because I think life, and I'm not trying to get too weird here, but I think life goes in an extremely unpredictable way, and that we think we're the advanced, generation, and I think we can't even imagine. Just like people probably couldn't even imagine the ability to take pictures or record footage or fly into space, all those things that just like there's no way we could have actually thought that that would ever be something that would be possible. That's magic. I think we're going in the same direction, and I think that whenever I try to imagine what that is, me personally, it's like your thoughts on the blockchain and other the government having access to that, or everything that you do is on some type of blockchain or digital world. I think things are going to get really crazy, and we're in a stepping stone towards that. And while that's really fun and interesting to pay attention to see where the world's going, and all the evil corruption and how that's affected and all that stuff, more concerned, and everybody is typically more concerned with how am I able to profit off of this to find financial freedom, or to be able to help my mom, or whatever it might be, or just get rich and live my dream life. A lot of people will just have that going for them. So I think yeah, that's what we're looking out for in the next bull run.
That's fair. Another interesting thing that what you said kind of made me think of this is you mentioned like this is why I'm doing things, and I want to make money, and this is how I want to make money, and that's why I came into the space. And I think that's the reason for a lot of people. Um, like I said before, there's two kind of sides of this. There's the emotional and there's the logical side behind everything, right? And you said like it'd be interesting to see why these projects did well and why these other ones didn't. Um, have you ever been to a casino?
Yeah.
So
real quickly, let me
okay, go ahead.
sorry, generation, I want to address some of the comments on the YouTube side. Mike's 0205 says only four people watching. LOL, you're humiliating yourself at this point. Clown face, dying laughing face. CC equals clown. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Great Lakes Flippers, how's it going? What is the subject? We were just discussing really just crypto in general. We're talking about SafeMoon. We're talking about High Seas Pirates. It's really just kind of open to anybody on the YouTube side, anybody on the Twitter side. If you want to join either one, yeah, there's nobody here. I don't care. And if you want me to like view myself as less valuable because people don't watch, then go start a channel and see if anybody watches you. That's just how you start, right? And there's people that have 1.27. Brian Young has 1.27 million followers, subscribers on YouTube, and his videos are getting like 3 to 7,000 views. There's just not a lot of interest in the social media side of things right now, but it's going to take off. And I'm doing these spaces to connect with people, not to like demonstrate how many viewers I have. I'm guessing you love Safe Moon, and that's why you hate me so much, and that's okay. um, sorry, Cat Generation. Go ahead, bro.
No, you're good. You're good. So what I was saying about casinos. So yeah, so casinos. So there's two sides to casinos. There's what actually happens. So people go into casinos for a specific reason. They want to make money, so they're willing to take their money and put it in, and then they're hoping that they're going to get money out. And 99.9% of the time, people lose all their money. Right? They lose money to the system, and the house makes all the money. But why does that work? Why are people willing to go into this casino and dump their money in where majority of them are going to lose? That's been their experience in the past. They continue to dump their money in, and yet the house wins every single time, and people continue to do that voluntarily, right? There's an actual logical science behind why that happens, and there's little things that are done in casinos, like the lighting, the fact that they don't put clocks in casinos, there's no windows, there's all of this different science. The ratio.
They don't
and
want you to think
algorithm.
what time is it. Yeah.
Right, they want you to waste as much time as possible, and they're even down to the way that they price hotels, even the way that they even the way they price out hotels, even the way that they do all the different aspects that go into this, all those details are thought out very methodically so that they can get people to stay in the casino as long as possible and spend as much money as long as possible, to the point where they'll let them win occasionally just to keep them in the seat, so they'll put a little bit more money in. So they felt like they were winning, and so that they can put more money in and risk more money, so ultimately they end up losing most of it. And the reason I bring this up and draw this correlation is because there is a science that preys upon the psychology and the emotions of the people that come into those casinos. And it's all these little intricate details. And if you start to study and learn how those are working, you'll start to see the patterns and how and why they work. So that way you can be aware of those things. I'm not saying that you don't gamble, or I'm not saying that there's a way to beat the system, because there's really not. But what I am saying is understanding
Start counting
that
cards or something.
What's that?
I said, yeah, unless you start counting cards or something.
Right. Which they can get you thrown out and all of their stuff.
Yeah, they just throw you out. Yeah.
And they put a lot of countermeasures now. So if you like, I was just in Vegas yesterday. So in Vegas now, they've basically made it impossible to count cards because they have a deck shuffler under the decks and under the table now. So it's like nearly impossible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they've gone to great lengths to prevent that. But anyways, the reason I bring this up is because you can draw that same correlation in DeFi and in crypto, where you can start to identify, like you mentioned, look at the projects that have seen success. Whether they saw success long term or not, it really doesn't matter. What were they doing? What were they saying? What were they presenting to people? And why did that resonate with those people? Why did they want to get involved? What was the specific wording or language or things that were presented to those people that got them involved? And start to look at that logically and see if there's any patterns. And once you start to identify those patterns, you can identify those patterns for the future. So that goes both ways. You'll be able to really easily identify products that are most likely rug pulls, because you'll see the language and the vernacular and the direction they're trying to take people in order to get them involved. And you'll also be able to see which projects are going to more likely see success and bring in more people based on what they're doing to get there. So there's quite a science and a psychology behind that, that I think people should pay more attention to. And if you're able to step back from your emotions of how you feel about a particular token or a project and look at the logic of what's going on in the background, I think you're far more likely to make better financial decisions when it comes to where you put your money and where you spend your time.
Yeah, when it comes to the casino, I definitely agree with you. I freaking hate casinos, man. They don't ever even give me the taste of like winning so that I could come back. I'm like, you got to let me win sometimes. Um, Which is why like crypto is like 1,000 times better. But I think it's just like, oh, the idea that you can make life-changing money. And then they have like the noises. Like I think they like focus on the G noise that does something to your brain. And then yeah, the lights and the food and everything. So to keep you gambling. So I think that it's initially just the idea to make like life-changing money or to make a lot of money. And then I think for people at that point, there's the people that do it for fun and like, okay, this sucks. And then there's people that they get a taste of like what it feels to win. and like not just winning money, but the like the noises go insane when you win, and it makes you give you this feeling, and you get this rush, and then you get addicted to this experience. And so, yeah, I think that you start breaking that down. I bet there's somebody that's written really good books on that. It'd probably be really good to read and apply to crypto to understand. Because, like, for me, I've only had one project where it was like it was Evergrow. The price just keeps going up. So I got to that feeling of 5K, 10K, 20K, 50K, 100K. It was like, I'm not addicted to that feeling and like chasing that feeling. But I think that a lot of people, do get addicted to that feeling when they get a win here or a win there. Like people at the casino, I think probably 90% something percent of them are down, right? It's like, yeah, you eventually win 500 to a couple thousand, but you probably put in like 3, 4, 5, 10 times that much just to win that um, over a longer period of time. So yeah, I would say it's probably an addiction to an idea of just having life-changing money, and like the stress of your life fuels that. Like people that are working their asses off and inflation's terrible and everybody's just like suffering in all these different ways, and it's impossible to get a house and a car and afford to get food and pay for like everything sucks, and all of that feels like, well, all of your problems can be solved through crypto, or through the casino, right? If you make a bunch of money, if you just hit big once. We just went to the casino a couple of weeks ago because we don't have a storm shelter, and there was some like crazy tornadoes apparently coming our way. And they ended up not coming, but we're just like, this is safer than my crappy house. And they had at the top of the machine, they had $1 million reward. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Let me try that. Like, I don't want to try to win a couple grand. I want to try to win millions. And crypto definitely just has this real. And when people see that, when they see that with Shiba Inu and Doge and other coins that come out, they say, this person over here actually made millions of dollars with a couple hundred or a couple thousand. And if they can do that and it's actually happening, then it creates all this like, well, I got to find the next project that does that opportunity. But then there's also, I think, this an addiction that can potentially happen. Although I think most people are losing in crypto space unless you're using bots or you're, a good trader, or you're one of the big players, that have that whale type of money. They move in, they move out before everybody else does. Before you can see your selling point, these people only have to see like a very small increase. Your $100 went to 200. That's great. Well, their 10,000 went to 20,000. And the whales always see their selling points first. So, but I guess that maybe there is that potential, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Of people getting, for one, just seeking the dream of changing their life, right? But also, addicted to what it feels like to have a project go up in value and to watch your bag go up, because that feels pretty good, right?
Oh, of course, and I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are here. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of crap going on in the world right now, and people's lives are quite miserable in a lot of ways. And they feel like they don't have control to change that. And so they've sought other methods and avenues in order to achieve that. And for a lot of people, that was crypto. This idea that if I buy this token and it goes up 100x, that could be life changing money and I can change my life. So that's kind of why I alluded to the casino idea, because there's people in the casino thinking the exact same thing. And ironically, you can have people like in the crypto space look at people in the casino and say, those poor saps are never going to make a dime. But then those people in the casino can look at crypto people and say, those poor saps are never going to make a dime. So it's funny how that can go both ways depending on your perspective. But yeah, one of the things you mentioned is this idea that most people are down in crypto. I'm going to argue that and say it's not just most, it's almost all people that are in crypto, divided out by just the number of people that are in the space, are losing money or are down, especially right now. The reality of crypto is this, especially in DeFi. If your project or thing is not solving a utility that people are willing to pay for a fair trade of value, then it's just money shuffling at the end of the day. Because if I'm getting into a project hoping that it's going to go up, and other people are all hoping that they're going to get their money into a project and it's just going to go up, and there's no other value being provided other than the idea that all of us are going to make money if more people come in and put their money in, and then I can pull my money out and make more money, then that's all that is at the end of the day. And what ends up happening is the people who got in the earliest, typically the developers or their friends or the lucky sop who got in early, is going to make out like bandits, and then everybody else that had that same dream ends up without any money or less than what they put in. And that's the unfortunate cycle and truth of most crypto projects, especially in the DeFi space, is this inevitable cycle of it goes up in price and it drops down. And that was even happening during the bull cycle. We saw products launch, they'd go 100x, and then inevitably would come back down. And a lot of people got hurt because all of that time that price was going up, there was new people coming in and buying in with that same hope and dream, and then the price came down to the point where it was multiples lower than what they bought in at, and they're never going to get their money back. Whereas the people who got in early made out like bandits. So that's the cycle of a lot of cryptocurrencies, and that's why it's important to look at that psychology and understand that if you want to play that game, the world's a free world, you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you understand that. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at the long-term value of cryptocurrency and what it's going to solve, that's why I asked that fundamental question at the beginning. What is the utility and purpose of that thing that you're buying? Will that have a purpose in the future, and is it going to create new value that people are going to be willing to pay for? Or is it just a pipe dream that people are holding on to? And typically speaking, if it's just the pipe dream, then the chance of you getting hurt on that project goes up substantially.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I'm actually glad we had this talk because I'm always trying to figure out. For me, I'm always overwhelmed by cryptocurrency and finance and everything that ties to it because there's just so much to it, and like even politics comes into it with like FTX, and then you have Ukraine and the Democrats. Like just oh my God, so much knowledge in every direction that it feels like it's impossible to just pin down everything and have a good understanding of everything. But lately, I've been, I think that the founding is like Bitcoin and what it stands for, and then yeah, starting to branch off from that, like what can that technology built on top of that be with smart contracts, and everything starts to help get a better idea of like the whole picture. And I think that this is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important things that you could focus on that I don't, and I'm sure it's out there, but I don't see other people focusing on, like what very simply what it is that we're saying is like, what is the idea that people are buying into? um is it realistic or is it not? And if it's not, is it something that people will still buy into, is it still an idea that people will buy into? Whether it be like this is stupid and it's done to mock the whole system and people might like it, or whether it might just be representing something. So I think, yeah, just going back and probably studying every project and seeing, trying to break it down to its simplest form. And it's not like it takes a genius to do this, it just takes time. That I think that it could definitely be super beneficial to picking the right projects in the next bull run, and to helping other people make money as well, because like that's the only goal as a content creator, is to make money and help other people make money. It's not to scam people or trick people into believing stuff, which is why we covered the negative stuff of SafeMoon. Like I knew, and everybody who covered that knew that that was going to do nothing but hurt what we had built our channels off of. We built our channels off of talking about SafeMoon, and by talking about the negative stuff, we knew that they were going to hate us for it. I mean, they said that we did it, we were paid, we're doing it for views, uh, just all kinds of terrible things. Unfortunately, like very very terrible behavior by people in the space. Um, and so but I think that as much as that sucks, what that does is it creates, what, this guy's not going to BS me next time. People that watch your channel, people that watch my channel, or anybody in the space, this guy didn't BS me with SafeMoon. He didn't lie to me till the end. And people also have to realize the implications of that. If SafeMoon never does anything and it only goes downhill, and they don't get some kind of lucky 1 in a million shot at John doing something with the money, or some reason people buying into an idea that SafeMoon's going to make them rich, because that's what has to happen. People just have to buy, like ultimately people just have to buy into the idea that this is going to make you rich enough to make a lot of people buy, while at the same time the people that have the big bags are holding in, while they're holding, and that allows a project to grow. And so the idea of SafeMoon getting enough traction to get a ton of people, outside people, to buy again, when there's already been such a massive part of SafeMoon's community that's gotten wrecked by the whales, gotten wrecked by the team, gotten wrecked by not never delivering on things, gotten wrecked by CoffeeZilla's video exposing everything. SafeMoon's considered a scam by the people that don't believe in it. You know what I mean? The only people that are really interested in SafeMoon are people that are trying to grow their projects that are so small that they want the audience SafeMoon has. And outside of that, the investors that still believe in it, I don't think anybody else sees SafeMoon and thinks that's a great project or a great investment because of those things.
Yeah, to each their own. One of the things I do want to say at the end of the day, is when it comes to that project or any other project, is um, there's a lot of people that will demonize community members. Of it doesn't really matter the project or the people or what they believe in. Um, at the end of there's always going to be some loud voices that are going to say certain things, and that's in the case of really any group, whether that's politics or whether that's cryptocurrency or whatever, that are going to represent a larger group, and it's typically going to misrepresent the larger group. If we're going to talk about SafeMoon specifically, I think the community members and most of the people that were involved in that project on a communal level, I'm not talking about developers, I'm not talking about the team or the big content creators or the big influencers that held spaces. I'm talking about your average day person who bought some and listened. And I think at the end of the day, those people are, there was a lot of amazing people in that group, and they're still amazing people to this day. And I think a lot of them ended up getting hurt, by the price falls and everything else that happened. And I don't hold any ill will towards any of those people. And I think some of those there's a lot of great and amazing people in that space, and that's the case in almost every project out there ever, regardless of the project and what's happened with its success or failure. And so again, circling back to the High Seas Pirates, that's why we put all this time and effort. I mean, we've only lost money on this so far because we haven't sold anything or released anything yet, but we put all of our money and time and effort into building this, was because we cared deeply about those people, the people without a voice, the people who are in these projects who are getting hurt, or some of the people who have seen some success but may not have a voice. So that's who we're building for, and we wanted something that it's going to benefit them, and it's going to help those people, and it's going to be somewhere that they can feel that they have a home and not have to worry about all this craziness that happens in a lot of these other projects. And I'm not to say that, our product's perfect, because it's not, and I'm going to be upfront about that, but we want it to be communally controlled so that the community has that voice that they never had.
100%. I want to jump over to the YouTube comment section real fast. I appreciate you stopping by, Generation Crypto. We should do more spaces. This has me thinking that like I'd actually like to start branching out and like get you and Tim in here, really just anybody into these spaces to discuss, because everybody's always learning, everybody always has knowledge and they can share, and it's really nice when there's not like huge egos involved and trying to one up each other or any of that stuff. But over to the YouTube side of things real fast. Great Lakes Flippers, how's it going, man? Yeah, this is an open talk. It's not specific to SafeMoon. We are just quickly talking about SafeMoon. We've been talking about all kinds of things. Crypto, also on the YouTube side of things, we got 4 viewers, guys. I'm totally okay with that. I don't care if we have 0 viewers on both. I know how YouTube works. I know you start from 0 and work back up. And there's no shame in that. There's shame in being ashamed of that and not trying. I'd rather try and fail than just not try at all, because I don't want to look bad because a couple people are watching. I'm not going to let something that stupid hold me back. But on the YouTube side of things, Great Lake Flipper says, a crypto with a real world use utility, especially if it is an industry where similar utilities are already regularly in use, but the crypto project is better and saves everyone money. That type of project will be huge and have staying power. I appreciate that. Great Lakes Flippers. Yeah, and if anybody wants to join the conversation on the Twitter side, you're definitely welcome to. If you want to on the YouTube side, you can just comment, or you can switch over to Twitter, follow me, and join the space and come up on stage and talk about whatever it is you feel. The goal really is just to help each other find new projects, or help each other have a good understanding that helps them find new projects. Or if it's just something you want to talk about. Mr. McFlunday says, hey, Crypto Control, are you still involved with Evergrow? I was never on the official team for Evergrow. I kind of wanted to be at different points, but I wasn't. And I still believe that Evergrow has huge potential, especially because the price is down so much. If Evergrow gains another 0, I hope it does, but it might not. That would be like an amazing buying point. The price is really down for Evergrow, and Sam is a very connected person, so there's huge potential there, in my opinion. I'm still cool with the Evergrow team. I'm friends with Paul. I'm friends with Sam. So yeah, there's nothing there, but I'm not a part of their team, and I never was. I just loosely worked with them a little bit and was friends with them. If you guys could do me a favor on the YouTube side of things, hit the like button, and that might help promote this more to my subscribers or other people on YouTube. And I'm going to get the Crypto Control show going, and I'm going to get more people in here so that guy does stops coming in here and calling me a clown. I'm just playing. Where are you in a rush, Generation Crypto? I'm actually not going to run this much longer because my girlfriend's about to be home, and I have to spend a little bit of time with her. But I'll
No, you're
probably
good.
do another one of these tomorrow, and I'm going to start looking at trying to get other people in here to talk about exactly what Generation Crypto is talking about. Generation Crypto is actually like a really smart guy. He like understands finances and banks and stuff. And whenever I watch your videos, I always know like, okay, this guy like actually knows what he's talking about. And that's the hardest part of making videos is having the knowledge base whenever you go to talk about something. And yeah, you can put in effort editing and recording and all. It's so much work goes into videos, guys, but having the right knowledge and having valuable knowledge is like the hardest part in my opinion. You have to go study for hours just to make a video, and then it takes hours to make a video. Are you still doing Generation Crypto, or
So it's part of back recall to our previous conversation of like
yeah.
what you learned going into being a developer. I knew I was going to be taking a very small break from my channel. Part of that was because I moved. So when I moved, I had to break down my studio and then move it down, and I knew that was going to be in the way, and it was the middle of us trying to get this project going. And so I was like, oh yeah, we'll be able to launch like in a few months, and like in like 2 months, and then once that's launched and like there's some revenue coming in, I was planning on building a new studio space and using some of the money that I would have made from the initial upfront to build out a better studio, both for the project so I could make more content for the project, but also for my channel. So that was like always been my goal, and I had some of my own money set aside to help pay for most of that. Um, but of course, being a developer is a lot more work into it than we initially thought and things. So uh, that hasn't happened yet. So what was supposed to just be a couple weeks break from the channel has now been several months. Um, so no, I'm not currently making Generation Crypto stuff, but that's just a bandwidth issue. I changed occupations in the middle of
Yeah,
all this as well.
that's
So
how
between
I see
work
it
and
is
being a
like
developer,
there. And I've always to
there's
say
just
this to
no
people when I
time
do my
to have
spaces.
any time to make any videos,
One of the best, if you
unfortunately.
have a crypto you
So
love
I
and
haven't
you're
been
an
making any
honest
content, but
person,
I'd love to eventually start making content again once I free things up.
thanks, man. I was just ranting with my mic off. Um, yeah, I just want to say this real quick. With anybody who's listening, if you have everybody, and I'm always trying to convince people of like how to make
You
yourself
there?
a better life, and people that
I
are
think
into
your mic is
crypto
muted.
generally already have that mindset. Thanks,
Oh,
man. Anyways,
there
I
you
was
go.
just ranting
Perfect.
with my
Perfect.
mic
Perfect.
off. Whatever it might be.
Um,
Yeah, I just
so
want to say
usually
this
you don't
real
have to tell
quick.
people that,
With
but
anybody
one of the
who's
easiest
listening,
ways
if
is
you have
to is to do
everybody,
social
and I'm
media,
always
whether you're
trying to
doing
convince
Twitter
people of like
Spaces,
how to make
YouTube,
yourself a
TikTok,
better
whatever it
life, and
is.
people that are into
If you
crypto
have something
generally
you
already
love in
have that
crypto,
mindset,
or you're trying to
anyways, like
work on mass adoption,
entrepreneurship
or
or
telling
working for
people about
yourself,
it,
whatever it might be.
and you have good
So usually you
intentions,
don't have to
obviously,
tell
if you're
people that,
scamming
but
people or lying to
one of the
people,
easiest
and you're
ways
not
is
able to
to do
differentiate like
social
reality
media,
from
whether you're doing
FUD,
Twitter
then
Spaces,
I would just
YouTube,
say don't
TikTok,
do it. But if
whatever
you
it
have those
is.
components,
If you have something
you
you
have
love
the
in
potential
crypto,
to
or you're trying
become
to work on mass
a
adoption or telling
massive
people about it,
YouTuber, a
and you
massive,
have good
I
intentions,
hate the
obviously,
word,
if you're
but
scamming
it just
people or lying
describes
to
an
people, or
influencer.
you're not
And
able
when you
to
combine that with
differentiate like
crypto and
reality from
finance, it
FUD,
pays
then
insane.
I would
YouTube
say
ad
don't do it.
revenue
But if you
pays
have those
really good.
components,
If you make a
you have the
successful
potential
channel
to
talking
become
about whatever crypto
a
it is you're in,
massive
talking about crypto in
YouTuber,
general,
a massive,
you can make a
I hate
lot
the
of
word,
money that
but it
way.
just
I haven't made
describes
a
an
lot of money that
influencer.
way, but if your channel
And when you
blows up, you're
combine that
going
with
to make a
crypto
lot
and
of money.
finance, it pays
Um,
insane.
and so
YouTube
I definitely
ad
recommend
revenue
everybody
pays
do that.
really good.
Generation Crypto, I
If you
feel
make a
like you had
successful
all the right
channel
components,
talking
and if you
about
get
whatever
back to a
crypto it is
point
you're in,
where
or
you have
talking about
time to
crypto in
do it
general,
and you keep working
you
on it,
can make a lot
I
of
saw you put
money
in the
that
work
way. I
sometimes with
haven't
your
made a lot of
editing,
money that way, but
that
if your
you had the
channel blows
perfect
up,
camera
you're
setup
going
where
to make a
everything
lot of
looks
money.
good, and it was just kind of working at
And
that
so I
point and
definitely
waiting for
recommend
the right
everybody do
video to
that.
blow up,
Generation
talking
Crypto, I
about the
feel like
right
you had
subject,
all the
right?
right
And I
components,
think you
and
can
if
start
you
to get
get
some
back to a
traction
point
there.
where you
And
have
then,
time to do
yeah,
it
then you can
and
make
you
more
kept
money off
working
of
on it,
YouTube or
I
social
saw you
media
put
than
in
you
the
can
work
actually with
sometimes with your
crypto,
editing,
with
that
ad
you had the
revenue, with
perfect camera
donations, with
setup where everything
subscriptions,
looks
with
good. And it was just kind of working at that point and waiting for the right video to blow up,
partnerships, with
talking about the right subject,
promoting
right?
products
And I
during
think you can
that,
start to
or
get some
with
traction there.
sponsorships.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then you
the
can
money
make more
becomes
money off
insane.
YouTube or
So,
social media than you can actually
just wanted to
crypto,
share that with
with
everybody.
ad revenue, with
Real quickly, I just
donations,
wanted
with
to read
subscriptions,
these.
with
Is there an audio loop?
partnerships,
Oh,
with promoting products during that, or with sponsorships. Yeah, the money becomes insane. So, just wanted to share that with everybody. Real quickly, I just wanted to read these. Is there an audio loop? Oh, I'm so sorry, YouTube side. I unmuted my mic. Yeah, that's going to sound terrible. I'm sorry, guys, but that's gone now. Real quickly, let me read these. Can I drop a project that isn't pre-sale? Great Lakes Flippers. Yeah, go for it, man. I'm always willing to look at new projects. He's still watching your vids, so thank you for the interaction, bro. Yeah, I know, right? Sorry about the audio loop on the YouTube side of things. Luckily, Twitter didn't have to hear that. What's up, Jeremy? Good to see you, man. Go ahead, Generation Crypto, if there was something you had to say.
No, I just want to say thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. You've also made pretty great content as well in the past, and unfortunately, I haven't had any time to watch anyone's videos, so I apologize not being able to watch your content lately. But yeah, when I was watching your content, you did an amazing job, and I was jealous a lot of ways of how you were able to articulate and make complex things easy to understand. So I think you did a great job with your content as well.
Thanks a lot, man. I always saw you guys, the other YouTubers, as my competitors. Like, yeah, and it was like evil in some senses. Like Dark Moon Tim would just pop off, and I'd be like, dude, oh, what the hell, man? Like, why is? And instead, I should be feeling good for him, right? And once we all became friends, it was like, oh, there isn't, although in a sense we aren't really competing against each other, and it became we just started rooting for each other once we got to know each other, and how cool, like literally every YouTuber was, like everybody was so cool. That covered SafeMoon, in my opinion. Maybe some people had some, very upfront personalities, but yeah. And I was always just trying to see like how can I do better than them. Whenever RJ had a video pop off, I'd look, okay, wow, he talked about this, he did this, and people really like that. How can I do that better? And so I just use you guys as my like competition. And I think that was like people might not find this as interesting, but if you do get into social media or whatever, like that's what you're paying attention to, is what does the audience want to hear? What brings value? And so learning what brought value and how can I add more value to my videos to get more views. It was like interviews, it was math videos. It was what if you hit this much money, what's going to make you a millionaire? And it's so interesting because it's like, from a content standpoint, what we're talking about is literally the same thing as an investing standpoint of like, why is this a good investment? And, I would be curious to hear your take, especially since you probably understand legal stuff more than me. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear your take on SafeMoon in general, but let me know if you got to go. I know that like SafeMoon or something, there's this document going around as SafeMoon seeking to like settle with people that are suing them or whatever. So it would be interesting to hear your take on that. It's totally fine if you don't want to talk about that, because I know the flack that you get for that, but it also would be interesting to hear your legal take on yep, it just left my mind, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm definitely not a lawyer, but yes, I do try to pay attention to legal things. It was a hobby of mine to watch court cases and things, but to be quite honest, have not kept up at all. Um, Probably the last 7-8 months of what's been going on with SafeMoon, and like at all, and that's been not because of like not caring or anything, but it's literally been bandwidth. Like I haven't been able to, just because I've been developing my own project, and so because of that, I haven't had time to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, of what's going on with everything over there. So I just don't know enough about what's going on to even give an opinion, and it would be unfair for me to really in any regard, just because I haven't been able to keep up with it.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. I think that, I get a little bit of information when it comes to SafeMoon, and I I just kind of feel like if something important happens with SafeMoon, I'll cover it. But I remember what I wanted to ask you, which is to hear your take on Vitreous. Have you heard of Vitreous? Have you seen that name go around a little bit, or?
I have heard the name. I haven't been as much as I'd like.
Oh, okay, did you hear me ranting about it earlier?
Yeah, I heard you talking about it a little bit. It sounds like it's an NFT project.
It's actually not. The NFT is just to hold your value until they release their own blockchain, and then they airdrop you your value in their own blockchain currency. So they're just using ETH right now to do that, and they're using the NFT as a means of holding your value in your wallet. But
Okay.
real quickly, the idea is that that's a financial company that is trying to save money through compliance, through using AI technology and blockchain to take all the 30 something different services that financial companies have to use, plus the people that they're paying to stay within compliance, and make it all into one service, so that they submit forms into an AI model. It checks it in these different layers of their blockchain, and then it spits out to let them know what they need to do to be in compliance, or whether they're not in compliance in the first place. And they have people that are working on salaries right now that are experts in these fields to help structure out everything at exactly how it needs to be built. So yeah, I mean, I know you said you're not a lawyer, but you might have a little bit more. You always seem to have a little more knowledge when it comes to that type of legal stuff, and maybe even the SEC. So it'd be great to hear your take on that if you ever get a chance to check that out.
I'll definitely have to look into it. If you can send me some links to some information, I'll try to do some reading in my free time, and I can get back to you on that, whether it's in a space like this in public or whether it's over a private call.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. We should do more spaces. I know you guys are doing more spaces, and I'd like to get different, communities in the space. Maybe get you and Tim and the other guy. I forgot his name.
No,
And
you're up, Mark.
Mark. It's Mark? Okay, I thought I got a
Merc,
different name.
MERC.
Merc. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
Merc. That is
Also
a
goes
hard
by
name to.
Captain X, Captain X. So if you see Captain X, that's his Twitter account, but his real life name he goes by is Merc.
Awesome, yeah. And I was thinking as we were talking, I was like, Shibtoshi, he says he's one of the early Shiba investors, a Shiba whale. So I would like to maybe do a space with him to see if he would like to discuss, what is the idea and try to get a better idea of like what was it about Sheeb that really caused it to go up because he's aiming to do the same thing for his own project. So maybe that would be a good space where we could have maybe you guys and him up and bring more communities together. I know people, that's how people do these spaces, and I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We hold a space every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern where it's pretty much any other community is welcome. And we just come up and let them talk about their projects and talk about ours a little bit. It's somewhat Polygon focused, but it doesn't have to be. We've had Bitcoin projects, we've had Binance projects up before, and it's been a good time. So, yeah, whether it's in that space that we already have every Monday or whether it's in a new space that you want to hold on a different day, I'd be more than happy to participate, and I'm sure Tim would want to as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming up, Generation Crypto. If there's anything else you wanted to say, you definitely do that. And if not, then we can schedule out the next space that we'd run.
Yeah, no worries. I just want to say thank you so much for having me up. Crypto Control, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. It's been a while, and so hopefully we can do stuff like this in the future. And I thought we had a pretty good conversation.
Yeah, I did too. I really enjoyed that. I think that we're very good at getting to the point that's valuable and understanding the value and what it is that we're discussing and the implications of what it'll have on the future. It helps me think about things myself that I hadn't quite considered. So very productive conversation, in my opinion. Like even if nobody's watching us, I'm totally glad we had that conversation. Um,
Me too. Appreciate it.
All right, Generation, thanks for coming up, man. I'll catch you later. I'm going to go ahead and read some of the YouTube comments, and then I'm going to go ahead and end this. I'll probably do one tomorrow, though. If you guys want to come up, Jeremy or anybody on the YouTube side of things, I read the YouTube comments. If you just want to comment on the YouTube side, that's totally fine. Do me a favor if on the YouTube side, drop a like. I really appreciate that. And that helps us grow, and we're just going to build a community of positive, realistically minded people that help each other find the next projects that are going to help us make money. That's the only goal in all this, is to help each other grow in their understanding and their education, make friends, make connections, network. You never know what the stepping stone is to life-changing things in your life. It might just be a friend you make who tells you about this project, who's friends with the people on the project, who then you go to work for that project. And while you're working for that project, because you're a part of that project, you make friends with this project, you invest in that one, you make millions. And it was all these stepping stones that changed your life. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do, but I don't want to scam people, and I don't want to work with scammers. And I'm all about actually exposing scammers. So I'm totally okay with using my channel to do so, as you guys know. We're gonna finish up some of these YouTube comments, and then we're gonna call it a day. Great Lake Flipper says Staked will change this. Yeah, Staked is definitely an interesting project. If they do what they're aiming to do, that one has potential, in my opinion. But the people behind it, I don't know. I don't know the developers behind it, and I don't know some of the ideas behind it. But I know that the guy behind Staked is an honest guy, from what I can tell, who is aiming to compete with basically DoorDash and Uber, but using cryptocurrency with cheaper fees. So definitely a cool project, and they're in their pre-sale phase right now, I believe. I think they're almost done. Mitchell Abbeys, is this the one you were talking about? You said you'll be here tomorrow. Are you talking about Volt Eno? Is that the one you want me to check out? I just want to make sure I'm checking out the right project that you want me to. Vitreous is an exciting project. Yeah, it's a very exciting project. Like, to me, I had this moment, and I'm just being totally honest with you. It had nothing to do with like, oh, I'm being sponsored by them, because they do sponsor me. They might stop sponsoring me at one point because times are tough in the crypto point right now. And I would still tell people about them as a potential investment. But I had this moment where I was like, this investment might change. It might be the only investment I ever need. Like, that's the thought that came to my mind. And I don't know if you guys follow me, you know that I'm very realistic. Like, I've always been a very realistic person. I don't BS myself and just convince myself that every project's the next amazing project. I rarely am bullish about a project. The only times I've been bullish about projects was SageMoon, and yes, that one ended up not being great. But when the bad information came out, I covered it, and I did it honestly. So I didn't have that information beforehand. If I had, I wouldn't have been bullish on SafeMoon. And SafeMoon had every reason to be bullish. They had everything going for them. They had a massive community, a huge name, they had everything. So they're actually being bullish on SafeMoon was not an idiotic thing until you found out why the team was leaving and what John did with liquidity and all those things. So when I got that feeling with Vitreous, it's like, okay, this is a real company that has professional people that they're actually paying, that are already being paid by the company to create these things in order to create this Vitreous chain by which they will creating for their own company to help with compliance and save money and time. And then once they get that at the end of the year, they start going out and bringing that to other companies. And if that does well, then yes, this could be an extremely life-changing investment. And you're in like one of the earliest seed sale. It's not even a pre-sale. There's 2 more pre-sales after this, and we're in the seed sale phase. And like nobody's listening to me, so it's great. It's not like a bunch of people are jumping on board. You know what I mean? And so it's just a huge opportunity for you to go do your own research and check it out and decide for yourself. Obviously, I could be wrong. It might not do well. Something might happen that is unexpected. But it's really good talking to you guys. And Mitch, I'll check out this Volt Inu, and I'll see you guys in the next Crypto Control show. Thanks for stopping by, Generation, Jeremy, and everybody in the chat. Mitchell, Great Lakes Flippers. I'll see you guys later.
No, I'm not muted. Hello, YouTube side of things. Hey, what's up, guys? How does that keep getting